RAM overload. RAM, or random access memory, is the temporary workspace your phone uses to keep apps running in the background. When you open an app, it loads into RAM. When you switch to another app, the first one stays in RAM, so it reopens instantly. When you switch back, it is already there. No reloading, no waiting. Here is where the problem starts. Every app you open takes up a portion of that RAM. Open enough apps and RAM fills up completely. When RAM is full, the phone has no choice. It closes background apps to make space for new ones. The next time you switch back to a closed app, it has to reload from scratch. In real life, this is why switching between apps on an older or budget phone feels slow. The app you used 5 minutes ago is gone from memory. The phone is reloading it entirely every single time. More RAM does not make individual apps faster, but it keeps more of them running simultaneously, which makes the overall experience feel significantly smoother. Storage almost full. When your phone's internal storage is nearly full, performance drops. Even if RAM is completely fine, the phone constantly needs small amounts of free storage to function normally. It uses free space to write temporary files, store system data, cache app information, and process photos and videos. When storage fills up, the phone has nowhere to write this data. The result is visible slowdown across almost everything. Apps take longer to open. Photos take longer to save. The keyboard lags when typing. The system itself becomes hesitant because basic operations that require temporary write space are now struggling to find room. In real life, even performance starts dropping noticeably when storage reaches around 80 to 90% full. Clearing even a few gigabytes of photos, downloads, or unused apps often produces an immediate improvement that feels disproportionate to how little was deleted. Aging battery. A degraded smartphone battery does not just affect how long the phone lasts between charges. It directly affects how fast the phone runs. Every smartphone processor requires a steady supply of power to run at full speed. A new battery delivers that power consistently and without interruption. An old, degraded battery cannot sustain the same power output, especially under heavy load. When the processor demands more power than the battery can deliver, the phone activates a protection mechanism. It reduces the processor's speed to match what the battery can actually supply. This is called performance throttling. In real life, this means an old phone that felt fast, when new can feel noticeably slower 2 or 3 years later, even with no changes to the software or apps. The hardware is the same, but the battery supplying it has weakened. Apple made this mechanism public after users discovered it independently. They called it performance management. The solution is battery replacement, and which on most phones restores a significant portion of the original performance immediately. Too many background apps. Apps running in the background are not always sitting quietly doing nothing. Many of them are actively working, checking for notifications, syncing data, refreshing content, and tracking location, even when you're not using them. Each background process consumes a small amount of CPU power and RAM. 1 or 2 background apps running silently is manageable. 10 or 15 running simultaneously adds up to a significant constant load on the processor. In real life, this is why some phones feel warm and sluggish, even when you are not actively doing anything demanding. The phone is busy in the background. It just is not showing you what it is doing. Checking which apps run background processes and restricting the ones that do not need to is one of the most effective ways to recover performance on an older phone. Software bloat over time. Every software update brings new features. New features need more processing power, more RAM. This is intentional. Developers design new software for modern hardware, not for the phone you bought years ago. The operating system on your phone today is heavier than the one it came with. It does more tasks, but also demands more resources. In real life, this is why a phone that felt fast on day 1 starts feeling slower after a couple of years, even with the same apps. Those apps also grow bigger, and the system grows heavier. But the hardware stays unchanged. This is called software bloat. It is not planned sabotage, just the natural result of software improving faster than old hardware can handle. Budget phones feel it sooner because they have less power to begin with. Even flagship phones eventually feel it too. Thermal throttling. Every smartphone processor produces heat when it works hard. The faster it runs, the more heat it creates. Heat can damage internal components if it gets too high. To protect itself, the phone keeps checking its temperature. When it becomes too hot, it automatically slows down the processor. This process is called thermal throttling. Slower speed means less heat, allowing the phone to cool down safely. In real life, this is easy to notice in gaming or heavy use. A game runs smoothly at first, but after some time, the phone heats up and performance drops. Nothing is broken. The phone is protecting itself. Better cooling systems help flagship phones stay fast longer before throttling starts. Budget phones slow down sooner because their cooling systems are simpler. Fragmented storage. Every time your phone saves data, it looks for empty space in storage. When storage is fresh and empty, files are stored in clean, continuous blocks, making them fast to access later. Over time, as files are added and deleted again and again, empty space becomes scattered in small pieces. New files then get saved in broken parts across different locations instead of one solid block. When the phone reads these files, it has to jump between multiple storage locations to collect all parts. This takes extra time. In real life, this causes apps to open slightly slower and files to load less smoothly, even when RAM and processor are fine. Modern phones reduce this problem automatically, but long-term heavy use still makes its effects noticeable. Outdated processor architecture. Every new generation of phone chips is designed to do the same work in a smarter and more efficient way. New processors need fewer steps, less power, and less time to complete tasks compared to older ones. Older processors running modern apps struggle because those apps are built with newer chip capabilities in mind. So the older chip has to work harder to keep up. In real life, this is a limit that cannot be fixed with updates or cleanup. You can free storage, close apps, or replace the battery, but you cannot upgrade the processor inside the phone. This is why even powerful old phones eventually feel slower than newer mid-range phones. Malware and rogue apps. Not all slowdown comes from aging or heavy use. Sometimes a harmful app secretly runs in the background and uses system resources without permission. Malware can consume CPU, RAM, and battery for tasks you never agreed to, like hidden ads, data tracking, or even crypto mining. In real life, signs include fast battery drain, overheating, slow performance in simple tasks, and unusual data usage. Unlike normal aging, this type of slowdown can appear suddenly after installing a suspicious app. Removing the app often restores performance quickly. The safest protection is installing apps only from trusted stores and checking permissions carefully before installing anything. Every reason your phone slows down follows the same pattern. The hardware stays fixed. Everything around it keeps growing. Apps, operating systems, background processes, data. Eventually, the gap between what the phone was built for and what it is being asked to do becomes wide enough to feel. RAM fills up. Storage runs out of breathing room. The battery weakens and throttles the processor. Software demands more than the chip was designed to handle. Understanding these reasons explains why clearing storage, replacing a battery, or restricting background apps can recover performance that felt permanently lost. The phone did not become slower because something broke. It became slower because the balance between hardware and software shifted, and some of those shifts can be corrected.